the dance moves, the fashion, like, so these are things that I don't think take away, they just augment your personality and they feel very natural. It doesn't feel like a forced thing. Was there a time where you weren't doing that and you brought that into the fold, or was there ever a switch, or it's just always been that way? Because I just feel like it's very natural with what you're doing, and then of course you bring people into the fold who also share that kind of joy.
Wow, that's a great question, and thank you. You know, be in to be in one's own authenticity, that is the goal for me. And that the fact that you said it's natural really touches me because, you know, I want it to come from an authentic place. And when I see other artists that are so in tune with themselves, it just radiates out and it that touches me. Um, so ever since I was really young, I think I was like 6 years old, my first connection to music was singing and songwriting. I was apparently singing ever since I could talk. I was playing piano since the age of 6, and I wrote my first song at the age of 7, knowing like 3 chords. I wrote like a country song, and then I was dancing. I was doing ballet since I was like 6, and then I was also acting from a really young age with hopes to be on Broadway one day. And so when I was little, instead of playing with toys, I used to just lock myself, well, not lock myself, but close the door and be in a room. I chose to close the door. And I was in a room with just the mirror, and I would have so much fun just making up stuff. And the feeling of creating, and it still feels like this to this day, this feeling of creating something from nothing is so magical to me. So every time my parents came home, you know, I'm like 7 years old or 6 or 7, I'd be like, want to hear my new song? And I just wanted to share it. And they'd be like, yeah. They'd always say, yeah. And then I'd be like, want to see my new dance? Like the next day, I'd be like, want to see my dance? They're like, yeah. And I'm like, do you want to hear this new skit that I wrote? Like, yeah. And it was such a exciting thing for me to be like, hey, I made this thing. And can I share it with you? And then to see other people kind of like see my family light up. And I just fell in love with that feeling. That was like my high. And so I never knew, I didn't think that I would become a professional artist. And if anything, I had my eyes set on becoming an actress when I was younger. Now things took like a turn when I found my deep in my love for music, and my first saxophone teacher was deeply into jazz, which I kind of knew about, but I didn't have like deep roots in jazz. My mom listened to a lot of great Stan Getz recordings, and like they always played Girl from Ipanema, but I by no way, my parents weren't like playing the deep cuts of
Right.
like John Coltrane or anything. So it was my first sax teacher who was just like, man, he was like really hit me with all the cats like Charlie Parker, Johnny Hodges, Coltrane. I'm like, oh my God, wow, this is a treasure chest of incredible art. I don't quite understand it, but I am very fascinated and let me learn. And I'm grateful that that was my first teacher's background, because maybe if he was like, hey, check out, you know, give me a whole different list of players
You
and a
would have been
different,
somewhere completely different.
yeah, I'd be a completely different artist, because I so trusted my first teacher to be like guide me, you know, just taking it all in. Um, but there was definitely a time when getting deep into jazz, that I was very self-conscious about these other aspects, and I kind of locked them away. You know, I stopped acting. I stopped doing I was doing weekly dance classes since I was little, and I was actually really proficient in tap dancing, which in my very first concert when I was 12 years old, I played the saxophone and tap dance at the same time.
That's awesome.
I can find that footage. My dad has that footage. And then at one point, I put the sax down and I just traded fours with the drummer while tapping. And that was an idea that just came from in my tap dance class. Somebody dared me to do it. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it. It sounds awesome. Um, but I don't know. I think when I got deeper and deeper into jazz, I was like, well, I don't think there's a place for this. It feels like, you know, and there were some comments kind of coming in that just made me feel self-conscious about those things. And you know, had the great fortune of studying with my jazz saxophone heroes, Phil Woods and Lee Conants. And with Lee Conants, my gosh, we had these very, very serious music conferences. He never called them lessons, they're always conferences. And he taught me so much about the art of improvisation and just, kind of, we had many discussions of whether one should go down the route of being an entertainer and his thoughts on that versus kind of serious music. And so, with also the things my mentors were telling me, I felt like, okay, I should do it this way. Not that they were telling me to do that way. I just felt this thing within me that, uh, you know, now I've realized that our teacher is, um, if you have a wonderful teacher and mentor, they want to see you spread your wings and really be you, not them. And I did have some really amazing moments with my mentors where they really encouraged me to be me, especially when I was feeling doubt or maybe a bad review came in. Or I remember when Wynton Marsalis said to me, because he's also been he brought me on stage when I was 16 years old at Jazz at Lincoln Center. And he said to me, I never read the reviews, Grace. Don't read the reviews. Just do what's in your heart, go forth with your thing. And so I think I started to find more confidence in the past couple of years of being like, you know what, I'm going to try to get back to my roots of the things that made me really happy and made me express, it's built inside of me to want to dance when I listen to music or listen to something that moves me. I want to be a storyteller, and doesn't really matter to me what medium it is, whether I'm singing you something, I'm playing you something, I'm speaking you something. If it comes from my heart and it moves you, and we both feel this connection, to me, I'm like, okay, that's it. We just mission accomplished. It's about connection. It's about feeling emotion. And I realized as soon as I started to add in some of my dance moves, which by the way did not feel natural at all when I first started going back into it. And Leo P was a great inspiration to me to watch how this guy seemed to be so good at connecting his expression with his body, with his playing, with his, and I was he watching him and interacting with him kind of unlocked this thing in me, like, oh my gosh, he's so unique in how he's doing that, and I think just innately it was kind of like, Grace, let's find a little courage to dig back into those things that brought you so much happiness, that brought you expression. And I was so nervous, Kevin, that when I would bring all of these aspects together, when I would sing a singer songwriter song that was one of my most personal songs, and I'd wear like a pink furry jacket and dance around, and I'd do like a groovy song and a jazzy song. I was so worried that my audience would be like, she's lost it. Like, Grace is just so unfocused, which is some of the things that a lot of the jazz reviewers were saying about me, especially after hearing a lot of my straight ahead work. But the opposite happened. My fans, especially the ones who backed me and wanted to see this new vision of mine, they became super fans. And it was a really, really incredible thing to witness, because I was in so much fear. Even though I was doing it, I was in so much fear of like, oh my God, what if I'm like wasting people's money and they're trusting me and we're doing this big production and I feel like I'm making this big leap, but I don't really know how it's going to blow over. And man, it's like the opposite happened. My fan base and the new people, the thousands and tens of thousands of new people that were finding me on YouTube or just reaching out being like, this is so unique. I absolutely love what you're doing. And so that's been really encouraging for me to just try to find myself more. And I think for every artist, this is really, really important that you focus in on your journey, because the world really doesn't want to hear the same stuff, it's about having something different and unique to offer and to expand on And for every single person, that's going to be a different journey of how to get there. But I know in my case, there's a lot of fear that was wrapped up in it. And I kind of wish, actually, I don't wish I'd told myself. I'm really glad I went through that journey. But thinking back to talking to like um, Grace from the past, I would kind of tell her now, like, no, like this is the path of becoming an authentic artist. To zero in on those things that you feel are unique about you, and you'll find that audience, or they'll find you, that also resonates with that, but it's your job to get it out there